Most people think the best day to pay a credit card bill is the due date, but that is only half true. The due date is important because it is the last day to pay at least the minimum payment and avoid being late. And if you want to avoid interest, you usually need to pay the full statement balance by that date. But if your goal is not just avoiding late fees, if your goal is also protecting your credit score, lowering your reported balance, keeping your utilization under control, and making your credit card system easier to manage, then the best day to pay your credit card bill may actually be earlier than the due date. The reason is simple. Your credit card has two important dates, not one. The first date is the statement closing date. This is the day your billing cycle ends, your statement balance is created, and many issuers report your balance to the credit bureaus around that time. The second date is the payment due date. This is the deadline to pay the statement balance before interest can become a problem. Most people only pay attention to the due date, but the statement closing date is the date that can affect what balance shows up on your credit report. That reported balance is what can influence your credit utilization, and credit utilization is one of the biggest factors in credit scoring. So if you spend a lot on your card during the month, even if you pay in full every time, your credit report may still show a high balance if that balance is sitting there when the statement closes. That is why someone can be financially responsible, pay every bill in full, never pay interest, and still see a temporary credit score drop after a high-spending month. The bank does not usually report your entire payment history every single day. It often reports a snapshot. If the snapshot happens when your balance is high, your utilization looks high. If the snapshot happens after you pay it down, your utilization looks lower. This is why timing matters. But before we go further, here is the most important rule. Never miss the due date. If you do nothing else, pay at least the minimum by the due date. And if you want to use credit cards correctly, pay the full statement balance by the due date. That is the foundation. Everything else is optimization. Paying before the statement closes can help with reported utilization, but it does not replace the basic rule of paying on time and in full. The best day depends on your goal. If your goal is simply avoiding late fees and interest, the best day is a few days before the payment due date. Not the exact due date, because payments can sometimes take time to process, bank transfers can fail, websites can have issues, and people forget. A smart system gives itself a buffer. Paying 3 to 5 days before the due date is usually cleaner than waiting until the last possible moment. Better yet, set autopay for the full statement balance, then check manually before the due date to make sure everything looks right. Autopay protects you from forgetting, but you should still review your statement because autopay does not replace awareness. Now, if your goal is improving the balance that gets reported to the credit bureaus, the best day may be 2 to 3 days before the statement closing date. This is the date many people ignore. If your card closes on the 20th and you have a high balance on the 19th, that high balance may become your statement balance and may be reported. But if you pay most of it down on the 17th or 18th, the statement may close with a much lower balance. That can make your utilization look better. This matters most if you are applying for a mortgage, car loan, apartment, business credit, credit limit increase, or another credit card soon. If you are not applying for anything, small utilization changes may not matter much, because utilization has no memory in many common scoring models. But when you are preparing for an application, lowering reported balances before statement closing dates can be a useful short-term move. The key is not to turn this into stress. You do not need to micromanage every dollar forever. You just need to understand the difference between paying to avoid interest and paying to control what gets reported. Those are two different goals. Here is a simple example. Imagine your credit card limit is $5,000, and during the month you spend $2,000. You plan to pay it all off, and you have the money ready. If your statement closes while the $2,000 balance is still there, your utilization on that card looks like 40%. Even if you pay the full statement balance before the due date, your credit report may still show that 40% until the next update. But if you pay down $1,500 before the statement closes, your statement may close with a $500 balance. Now, the reported utilization looks like 10% instead of 40%. Same spending, same discipline, same full payment, different timing. That is the whole secret. The best day to pay is not about tricking the system. It is about understanding when the system takes the picture. But there is one mistake to avoid. Do not think paying early means you can ignore the actual bill. If you make a payment before the statement closes, then continue spending after that payment, you may still get a statement balance later. You still need to check the statement and pay what is due. Early payments are extra control, not a replacement for reading the bill. Another mistake is paying the current balance randomly without understanding the statement balance. Your current balance is everything currently owed on the card, including recent purchases. Your statement balance is the amount from the last closed billing cycle. To avoid interest, the statement balance is usually the number that matters. If you pay the full statement balance by the due date, you are generally handling the card correctly. If you pay only the minimum, you may avoid being late, but you can still pay interest. If you pay less than the statement balance, you may carry a balance. So when people ask, what is the best day to pay my credit card bill, the answer is really a system. First, pay the full statement balance before the due date every month. Second, if your reported utilization is too high, make an extra payment before the statement closing date. Third, if you struggle with overspending, make weekly payments or pay every payday so the balance never feels invisible. The best timing is the timing that keeps you out of interest, keeps your utilization reasonable, and keeps your behavior under control. For beginners, I like the simple two-payment method. Payment 1 happens before the statement closing date. This payment brings your balance down to a comfortable level, especially if you had a high-spending month. Payment 2 happens before the due date. This payment clears the full statement balance. If that sounds too complicated, use autopay for the full statement balance and make one optional extra payment before the closing date only when your balance is unusually high. That is enough for most people. You do not need to make credit cards your entire personality. You need a system that works even when you are busy. Another useful method is the payday method. Every time you get paid, you pay down your credit cards. This is not always necessary for credit score optimization, but it can be powerful for behavior. It keeps your checking account and your card balance connected. It prevents the card balance from becoming a surprise. It helps you feel the cost of spending closer to the time you actually spend. For people who overspend because credit cards feel abstract, paying every payday can make the system more real. Some people even pay weekly. That is fine too. The best method is the one that keeps you from carrying a balance. Because no credit score trick is worth paying credit card interest. Interest is the real enemy. A few points of credit score movement from utilization is temporary. Interest charges are real money leaving your life. So if you are choosing between optimizing utilization and avoiding interest, avoid interest first. Always. Now, should you pay your credit card bill the moment you make a purchase? You can, but most people do not need to. Paying after every purchase can help people who need tight control, but it can also become unnecessary work. Credit cards are designed around billing cycles. You are allowed to wait for the statement and pay the statement balance by the due date. That is normal. The problem is not waiting. The problem is waiting without a plan, spending money you do not have, and then hoping the next paycheck fixes it. If paying after every purchase keeps you disciplined, use it. If it makes your financial life annoying, use autopay and scheduled check-ins instead. Another common question is whether you should let a small balance report instead of paying everything to zero before the statement closes. Some credit score enthusiasts believe a small reported balance can be slightly better than every card reporting zero because it shows active use. But for most normal people, this is not worth obsessing over. Low utilization is generally better than high utilization, and paying in full is more important than trying to engineer a perfect, tiny balance. If you are preparing for a major loan and want to optimize carefully, you can let one card report a small balance and let the others report zero, then pay the remaining statement balance by the due date. But if that sounds confusing, do not worry about it. The main rule is simple. Keep balances low, pay on time, and never pay interest just to show activity. You do not need to pay interest to build credit. That is one of the most expensive myths in personal finance. You can use a credit card, let a statement generate, and pay it in full. That shows activity without carrying debt. Another important point is that the closing date and due date are different for each card. If you have multiple cards, you may have multiple closing dates and multiple due dates. This is where people get into trouble. They open several cards, chase rewards, and then forget which date matters. If you have more than one card, put every due date and statement closing date in a simple tracker. Card name, closing date, due date, autopay status, annual fee month, and main job. That is enough. If you do not know your closing date, check your statement or your online account. If the timing is awkward, some issuers may let you change the due date, which can also shift the billing cycle. Many people like setting due dates right after payday. That way the money is there before the bill is due. Others prefer spreading due dates across the month. The right choice depends on your cash flow. The point is to make the system predictable. Credit card stress often comes from unclear timing. Clear timing creates control. Let's talk about the worst day to pay. The worst day is after the due date. The second worst day is the exact due date if you are the kind of person who forgets, travels, has bank transfer delays, or waits until late at night. The third worst day is only after the statement closes if your utilization is high and you are about to apply for credit. None of these automatically destroy your life, but they create avoidable risk. A better system gives you room. Pay before the due date. Pay before the closing date when utilization matters. Use autopay as protection. Review manually as confirmation. Another mistake is thinking a payment lowers your credit utilization the instant you make it. Your card balance may update quickly in your bank app, but your credit report may not update until the issuer reports again. That is why, if you are applying for credit next week, waiting until the day before may not be enough. If you need your credit report to show lower balances, give the system time. Pay before the statement closes, then wait for the issuer to report. Some issuers may report off-cycle in certain situations, but you should not rely on that as your main plan. The cleaner plan is to reduce balances before the statement date in the month before your application. This is especially important before a mortgage. When a mortgage is coming, do not play games. Keep balances low, avoid new debt, avoid unnecessary new cards, and talk to your lender before making major credit moves. For everyday life, though, the best day is much simpler. The best day to pay your credit card bill is the day that makes it impossible for the card to charge you interest, and unlikely for the card to report a balance that makes you look riskier than you really are. For many people, that means paying the full statement balance 3 to 5 days before the due date, plus making an extra payment 2 to 3 days before the statement closing date if the balance is high. That is the clean answer. But there is a deeper answer too. The best day to pay is the day that keeps you honest. If you only look at your card once a month and the balance shocks you, you need more frequent check-ins. If you feel calm and organized with autopay, use autopay. If your income is irregular, pay when cash comes in. If you are rebuilding credit, keep utilization low and pay early. If you are applying for a loan, pay before closing dates. If you are carrying debt, stop optimizing rewards and focus on payoff. The best day is not the same for everyone because the real goal is not timing. The real goal is control. Credit cards are powerful because they separate the moment you buy from the moment you pay. That separation can be useful, but it can also be dangerous. Rewards make the separation feel even better because you earn points while pushing the payment into the future. But the payment always comes. The bill is not optional. Paying at the right time reconnects the purchase with the money. It reminds you that credit cards are not extra income. They are just a payment tool. So build a system that makes the payment boring. Boring is good. Boring means no late fees, no interest, no panic, no surprise balance, no mystery utilization, no wondering whether your score dropped because the wrong balance reported. Boring means you are in control. Here's the system I would use if I wanted something simple. First, turn on autopay for the full statement balance. Second, set a reminder 5 days before the due date to confirm the payment account has enough money. Third, set a reminder 3 days before the statement closing date to check the current balance. If the balance is higher than you want reported, pay it down early. Fourth, keep your spending inside your real budget because payment timing cannot fix overspending. Fifth, if you are about to apply for credit, keep every card's reported balance low for at least one full statement cycle before the application. That system is simple, but it works. It protects you from late payments. It protects you from interest. It helps manage utilization. And it keeps the card from becoming a financial blind spot. So when someone asks, what is the best day to pay your credit card bill, do not give them one date. Give them the 2-date rule. Pay before the statement closing date if you want a lower balance reported. Pay the full statement balance before the due date if you want to avoid interest. And if you want the safest version, do both. Pay down high balances before the statement closes, then pay the statement balance before the due date. That is the difference between using credit cards casually and using them with a system. The goal is not to obsess over your score every day. The goal is to make sure your credit report reflects the way you actually manage money. If you are responsible, your reported balances should not accidentally make you look risky. If you pay in full, your timing should support that. If you use rewards, your payment system should protect you from the costs that erase those rewards. The best credit card users are not the people who know every trick. They are the people who never let the basics fail. They pay on time, they pay in full. They keep utilization under control. They know their closing dates, they know their due dates. They use autopay but still pay attention, and they do not let points distract them from the bill. That is the real best day to pay your credit card bill. Early enough to avoid stress, smart enough to manage utilization, and consistent enough that you never have to wonder whether the bank is winning.